market and product. At this point, we would like to thank the members who participated and contributed their inputs for the completion of this report. We thank you.
Okay, thank you to the groups from the Philippines. Okay, Kit Chan. Hello, Kit Chan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Jojo. Can you hear me?
Okay, are you ready to cast the first stone? I'll let you comment. No, there were great presentation, but you'll have your first crack on the comments first, suggestions, observations, and then I'll do mine. Okay?
Okay, Jojo. Yeah, but Jojo, you must not cast me as one of those persons who's very critical at these presentations. Otherwise, I get a very bad reputation. Jojo, I'd like to start backwards and start from Philippines because I think that's where most of our audience have the fresh memory. And I want to go to Philippines, Group 1, where you want to introduce bananas to the United States. It's a good presentation on this part, and you showed very clearly your strength, and you explained very clearly about your land availability and your climates. But what I like best is your strategy and this big brother, small brother approach. It's fantastic. An experience which I have had here in Malaysia without much success. So I think if Philippines are talking in that kind of approach, I think it's very interesting, very challenging. But if it does work, I think it is going to be fantastic. You're trying to improve global competitiveness to local producers, intensify R&D. Those are all very good strategies. Incidentally, Jojo and participants, I rank each of your presentations at the bottom of these sheets under what I categorize as homework done, graphics, and content reality. And I rank them between 1 to 9, 1 as least, 9 as most. And I think Philippines, I put 8 for each of this, for homework done, for graphics, and for content reality. So I think you've done very well on that scope. For Crab Food Incorporated, you are fantastic because you've got very clear idea of what you want, because none of the other companies, the private companies, mentioned the objective. You set it down there, and you know how much money you want to make each year. And your strategies actually complemented very clearly your SWOTs, your strengths and your weaknesses. You identified your strengths and weaknesses earlier on, and then you said you want to upgrade your capitalization to increase your production, and that's exactly what you needed to do. So try not to, like in most cases where you do an analysis and you say, oh, this is our strength, this is our weakness, and we are weak in this, and then you put a full stop to it, and you said, we are not going to do anything about it. That's the biggest mistake. So very good, Philippines, and congratulations. You've got 8 for all 3 categories. So it is very realistic. I gave you an 8 for content reality. That's fantastic.
Kit,
yes.
Just a moment. I might as well put in my comments before we go to the next country.
Yeah, let's do that.
Anyway, we have time. I might forget also. If I have to wait until you say you comment on the last country.
Yeah, okay. Now you go on Philippines.
Yes, the first group, I was not very clear about the objective. That's why I asked after the presentation, what was the objective? Was it exporting bananas to the USA? Because eventually when they went on to the strategies, these were very broad strategies to include the entire agriculture sector. But I thought if their objectives was really to export bananas to the US market, then it would have, those objectives should have focused on ways on how to be able to penetrate the US market. Insofar as enterprise level group, I think I agree with you. They came up with very concrete objectives. And what I'm not very clear is, are they exporting now to Japan? So their objective should be very clear, whether they want to export to Japan or to expand their existing export. I wasn't able to get it very clearly in their presentation. I think that's all for the two groups from the Philippines.
I want to come to Malaysia on the group one, where you, and as a national policy, want to introduce and promote dragon fruit pitaya to Japan. What I noticed is that when you mention your strengths, and you are just one of the countries among all the other 5 that mentioned that you have lots of money, and the government is supporting you very strongly with very low interest loans, and you can match grants dollar to dollar. Now, these are fantastic strengths that many countries do not have in Asia, and you have it. And I very, very much like to encourage that your strategies actually would complement on that strength. So make use of your money and use that money wisely. That's something which I stress very much. I am particularly interested in Group 2 Malaysia, where you are one of the 5 who actually identified your product as a niche market. You actually gave it a very innovative idea. What is this? Green tea flavored chicken nuggets or something like that? You have introduced your company very well. I don't know if that's a real company with so much money or it's fictitious, but nonetheless, the poultry business is expensive, but I like that green tea flavored chicken nuggets. You identify your targets very clearly, although that you could also spend more time to elaborate and window dress your market a little bit more. I like that your packaging size. Okay, you actually put a weight in it, and if you actually go into this business, which I hope you do, spend some time designing the packaging and make it more Japanese packaging image. So as much as homework is done, it's fantastic.
Okay, I think the Malaysian group also came up with a very good presentation. The first group, they were very clear about their objective. They want to export red pitaya to Japan. So they came up with a SWOT analysis, and some of the groups, they mix up. When they do their SWOT analysis, they mix up the strength and the opportunities. When you speak of the strength, these are the inherent to the country. If you are doing the SWOT analysis for the country, or if you're doing it at the enterprise level, the inherent strength of the enterprise. But in the case of the group from Malaysia, the group 1 was able to really clearly distinguish the strength, the weakness, the opportunities, and the threat. So when it comes to the opportunities, it's the outside factors, not the inside factors. And both the opportunities and trend pertains to the external side, and the strength and the weakness more on the internal side. I think Group 1 was able to clearly do this. That's why when they came up with their strategies, they were able to outline their strategies very well to address these things. And for Group 2, they also were able to come up with a very good strategies, because they also did their SWOT analysis very well. But first of all, they start with their objective. They have a very clear objective. I think I intentionally did not put it when I assigned the task to be done by the group. I intentionally did not put it that the first thing you have to do is to set what is your export objective before you are going to formulate your strategies. Because if you don't have a clear objective, you cannot come up with clear strategy. Okay.
Indonesia, you spent a little bit of time to tell us about your country, which took away some very expensive 3 minutes from your time. Now, jamu is not something which I am well acquainted with, so be prepared also that you're trying to introduce this to the Americans. It's not easy, So you have to do a lot of work. Your strategy of trying to strengthen SME, it's very vague. It's like, I want to be a rich man, but, how does it get me to become rich? So you have to spend a bit more time thinking about what and how you're going to strengthen your SME. And you mentioned something which here struck me very strongly. You said one of the strategy is to find business partners. Now, I'm just wondering whether you're going to find business partners in the government sector, government corporatized sector, or private sector. I mentioned this because I want to relate to Indonesia Group 2, where one of your strategy, and you mentioned a little bit about co-creations, and you got a lovely chart up there by some Indonesian writer of relating the R&D sector, equating with firms and customers. Now that's exactly what is needed. So there seems to be some dichotomy between the private sector and government objectives here. So I think there's a little bit of marriage that has to be done a lot more in Indonesia to try to relate. You see, having a national strategy on one side and having the private sector to have their say on how they want to get things done, this is a very good opportunity for both of you groups to come together and say, hey, I want to do this, and does that correspond to the private sector's objectives as well? So these are things to think about. Joe?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the two groups somehow were not able really to distinguish or divide their task. More or less, they came up with some strategies that are more generic in nature, which is applicable to a national level strategy, not really enterprise level strategy. And I think they have to become more specific in their objective. Since we are talking about export, what is really, what kind of products are you intending to export, and which market? I think if you don't mind, you can look back at how the Malaysian group did it. They even have a strategy at the enterprise level as to the 5 Ps, the price, how they will package the product, and the promotion thing. And one of the objectives of this exercise is really to be able to see how you are able to apply or use some of the knowledge or the information given to you by the resource speakers in this course. And I think Malaysia is one of the group that was, whether it was theoretical or real, they really intend to use those information for that particular company. I think they really used the information that was made available to them in this course. Okay, thank you.
We go to Fiji, and taro, again, it's a very, very exotic product. Again, you have big problems because of your distance, and if you want to market this in the UK, you have to travel a long way. And you have problems, of course, governments and climate changing policies. But again, you did the worst thing, because from Group 1, the national strategies, you were talking on way one head that you want to do this, you want to support the financing, you want the technology support to increase and everything, but you did not mention anything at all about the private sectors, and you did not relate to any of your objectives with them. And with Group 2, Fiji, I noticed that you did not mention the government by name at all. It's as though that you do not think that the government is ever going to help you. I hope that is not the case, and I hope the message gets through to Fiji on both groups, that you have to work with each other. You cannot alienate and say, we can do without the government and we can do this all by ourselves. Think again. Think again. The government is there to assist you, to provide you with all this assistance, technology, knowledge, management, which as private companies, yes, of course you can manage well, yes, of course you can do it by yourself, but why don't you do it with the government? Because you pay your taxes. So this is a very, very succinct point I want to point out to Fiji. Joe?
Yeah, for Group 1, I thought they were clear about their objectives. They want to export taro to UK. But when they tried to analyze the opportunities, they were talking of different things, like opportunity to create employment, to increase foreign exchange. But if you do your SWOT analysis, when you look at the opportunities, is the opportunity for your product to reach that market. And I thought they were able to identify some of the opportunities, but they put it under the strength. Like there are Fijians living in UK, and these are some of the base for that market, for the demand for their product. I think when you do your SWOT, try to clearly place those items if there are opportunities, but it should refer to opportunities for your products to come in. And then the threats, well, there are threats which are not, it should be threats to your product or for your ability, because you are looking at, as a national strategies, the threat to your industry. So some of them are not really threats, like things like natural disasters. If you think that is not, that natural disasters are big threats to your product, you should not go into that product. Look for some products that may not be affected by natural disasters, because if you produce something that can be wiped out by natural disasters, then there's no point in going to that product. Natural climate things, climate factors are given. You cannot control them. So you have to produce something that cannot be completely wiped out by natural disasters. For group 2, yeah, again, I think you have to be very clear about your objective. What is it? What are the products, and what are the markets that you want to penetrate? If this is a new product, if you have an existing product, then your objective may be to strengthen your position in that market or to diversify your product. Okay? Thank you.
Taiwan with Group 1, very good general outline of the country and your production capacity, very concise. I am very excited about the way you are being so honest about your weaknesses and the strength that you have. You didn't mention too much of your strength and boasting about it and trying to do a bit of crybaby and say we got all these weaknesses. No, you did it perfectly well, very well balanced. You actually mentioned about small farms. Now that sometimes may be a weakness, sometimes may not be. It all depends on how you look at the condition of small farms, which later on you did mention that you do have programs how you're going to work with small farmers. So, I got one point here in your strategy. You covered all the important aspects of the supply chain, and you went all the way back to producing your products, the mangoes, all the way up and talking to marketing. None of the other countries actually talk about the farms, and you did that, and you got it covered. I did mention this point yesterday, so very good, congratulations. You got a good point on that. But I think the darling of all is Taiwan under Group 2, and whoever, I forgot your name, but when you first spoke on Group 2, you gave this lovely general outline of how you were going to approach your enterprise strategies. You gave some lovely graphics up there. You did very clear pronunciations of all the words, and I dare say you have a marketing guy in your group, and this is a really professional guy or girl in your group, and that's fantastic. So promise is go, and that's something which I would take home with me, and you have shown a lot of energy, and congratulations, very good. You actually scored 9 for your homework. That's as big as I've ever given ever before. Now, Enterprise ABC Company. This is fantastic strategy. I mean, if I can do it, I would like to do it as well for my company. Serving tea to the emperor's brother. I mean, how much better can you do that and capitalize on that? You know exactly what you want to do, ABC company, because your strategies are so wicked. Enterprise B, farm base also, you went back very well. And you were also very competitive, and this must be the blood in your company. You took the opportunity of China dumpling contamination issue and used that as an advantage opportunity for your company. I would do that if I'm in that business. So other countries, if you're in the reception, you see, when it comes to business, it's not like you kill each other. Okay, we don't pray for disasters to happen in other countries. God forbid we don't. But if you take it in that business manner, if there is a window of opportunity, take it. You are doing mankind a favor. Okay. If food is not going to that resources, that market, you can do it, and you can even be magnanimous and say you're going to sell at a cheaper price. Whatever it is, when it comes to business, it's all about putting where your resources are and where it should be well placed and well returned. So congratulations, Taiwan Group B. Joe.
Okay. I am not sure. I wasn't able to get what was really the objective of the first group from Taiwan. They did their strategy, but I can see what was really their objective. But the enterprise level, the two groups, ABC company and YSF company, I think they were very clear in their objectives. One is to go high value product for their Oolong tea, and the other they want to produce and be known as the best flavor of Taiwan, and they came up with some strategies on how they will market their products and enhance their market in some of their existing market. Okay, I think we have a few minutes. If there are some groups who would like to respond or comment before we go to the closing session. Anybody would like to comment on the presentation or to respond to the comment raised by Kit and me? Taiwan, any comment?
Hi, Mr.
You don't have to
Bernardo.
if you don't want to.
We're only to express our gratitude of attending this wonderful, well-planned conference arranged by APO. It's actually one of the most informative meetings I have attended in the past few years. And also thank you for all the speakers you have invited this time. I think they are great in their own field and they can share honestly with their experience with us. It's a great learning course for all of us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Fiji, anybody from the participants who want to say something?
No, Joe, no, we don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Indonesia?
We don't have any questions, Joe. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm from Indonesia. Could you hear?
Sorry, I cannot hear you.
This is from Indonesia. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Malaysia, I cannot hear you.
This is Indonesia.
Joe,
Yes.
they don't seem to make much comment from Malaysia. I'm going to take a small opportunity and half a minute. I want to mention something about the presentation and the questions that were asked during the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, half a minute. As far as the resource person's presentations, there are many things that were spoken, And it seemed that these are the first time that a lot of participants have heard things like quote high and start small in business. As I look around when this was spoken, they seem to be shocked going through their faces. So this is an interesting point I noticed. I also noted that participants from Malaysia, especially, sensing that the consumer behavior of Japanese and Europeans and Americans are so different from each other, and that is a critical point that has made. Also, the little points that were made by Mr. Mori, that Japanese do not like change, and the 10 degrees distribution and transit temperature, those are very, very important points to be made. Also, on Ms. Ananda's point that the greater westernization among younger population, that is a critical point that exporters should take note going to Singapore. And particularly, Singapore is a tourist and international transport hub. And what that means is that a lot of big and different catering industries have to be supported. What I noticed, and this is the point I want to make, from the questions, most of the questions made towards most of the presentations was that the questions are very direct, very specific towards documentation, and especially how to establish business in Japan, US, and EU. And I think everybody seems to now want to do business with Mori organization and David Leonards. But taking in mind about the questions asked, two things that come to me, that the participants, that they know their business very well, and their benefits coming to this training is a confirmative of the procedures and pathways of how to enter the market. So participants do take note of that, and I know that you have taken a lot of notice from the lectures. And also, there were so many times the questions were asked, how can you find a market importer from the EU and Japan who can take our goods? Questions asked by Fiji twice and Indonesia as well. So I think, Jojo, I think the objective seems to have got right on target, and I think the study mission in Paris would become very, very handy with this. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, thank you, Kit. I was supposed to give you some time later, but anyway, you started it. We are supposed to, we have paid actually, reserved the venue until 5 o'clock in your place and 6 o'clock here in Tokyo. So we have some time to discuss if you have any other concerns, because our schedule for the closing is actually 5:30 Tokyo time. But anyway, let me take this opportunity to give the floor to the coordinators, whatever comments or suggestions you may have, because as during the opening, Mr. Choi mentioned that initially we had second thoughts whether this kind of topic would be suitable for an e-learning course. And this is the first time that I'm doing also the e-learning course. And this is also the first time that APO is trying to use resource persons from various locations, because in the past 2 years that we did it, the resource persons are situated in member countries in Asia, and where we also have the participants. So it looks like, I don't know, I would like to get your feedback with regards to how was the reception and in terms of the audio and the visual from the resource persons from Paris, from and USA. Did they come out clear? And what about our timing? Is it okay? Well, my apologies for Singapore. There's really a technical problem. If you would recall, when we had the rehearsal last May 2, we were able to see her and we were able to see the PowerPoint, but something, you know, something came up, and the facility in Singapore did not really cooperate with the presenter. Anyway, okay, let me give the coordinators some time to say their comments or any suggestions that you have for future projects of APO involving e-learning, or if there is any suggestion. Of course, as I requested everybody to reflect that in your evaluation form, but offhand, since we still have a few minutes before our time will be up, I would like to get some feedback from, especially from the coordinators. I will not pressure any coordinator, so I will not go alphabetically. So anybody who's ready to speak can speak.
Okay, Joe, can I start from Malaysia?
Yes, of
As
course.
you mentioned, this e-learning is a new experience for many of us, if not all of us here in Malaysia. And because of that, I think we may be feeling uncomfortable at times because we are so used to having a face-to-face resource person. Although we appreciate the cost structure, but I think some of us feel that the timing is very tight in terms of even trying to interact among ourselves. Perhaps we wish we could have more time, besides the workshop, of course, to have more time for ourselves here, because we are also strangers here in terms of people coming from the private sector as well as the government sector. But despite all these comments, I think the topic is very interesting and has generated a lot of ideas for the limited time we have our coffee break and lunch breaks, that we managed to come up with ideas that how both the private and the government sectors could work together in this export of our produce. So I think that as far as the cost objective of trying to strengthen the knowledge and the capacities of the participants in this area, I think this is very good indeed. Of course, I think they would like to see more real